I went from being an insecure girl who hated her reflection and could not start a conversation with anyone due to anxiety to a girl who loves herself, can start a conversation with absolutely anyone, and can get herself into rooms she knows she wants to be in. And you can make this transformation too. If you have ever felt like you need to overperform for a friend group to accept you, or like your personality is too much, or like your looks are not good enough, I want to tell you that you're not alone, and this episode is made specially for you. Today, we will talk about how insecurities arise in girls, what confidence actually is versus what people think it is, and how to go from insecure to unstoppable. My name is Val. I'm your host, and welcome to the Beautiful You podcast, a podcast for the girls who are ready to leave their doubts behind and step into the best version of themselves. I want to say that I'm so excited for you to be here. This is the first episode. I'm really excited to be recording this. I can't believe it. And if you're here, it already means that you want to take a step into your confidence journey. You already want to be here. You want to become the best version of yourself, and I couldn't be prouder of you for that. That is a great first step, a great accomplishment. Thank you for being here, and let's get right into it. I like to structure my episodes in my podcast in little chapters. That way it's easier for us to follow along through the information and it doesn't get like too complicated or too much, and I'm not just babbling. Like each chapter has its own little function and we talk about a certain subtopic in each little chapter. That way it's easier for us to just communicate, for us to understand. And if you want to go back to any podcast episode, in the future, you can go to that specific section you want to hear instead of like the advice being all mixed up in all of the episode and you having to re-listen to the whole thing. So today, chapter 1 is why are we insecure? Why are we insecure to begin with? Where does it come from? Because we're not born with insecurities. There have been studies where they ask little girls and little boys when they're little, like, if there's one thing about you that you could change, what would it be? And they answer things like, I would have a superpower, or, stuff like that is very childlike. I would be a mermaid, stuff like that. And if you ask a teenager if there's one thing that you could change about yourself, what would it be? It usually refers back to either a personality trait or a physical appearance thing, like my nose or my hip dips or, cellulite, very common ones, right? So where do we begin to have these insecurities? If we're not born with them, where do they come from? I want to say that it starts in the media that we consume ever since we're little. For me, one of the biggest examples of this is actually Disney movies. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Disney fan. I love going to the parks, I love watching the movies, but I do believe that certain beauty standards are developed in those kinds of movies. And not only in Disney, but in many, many, many aspects of Hollywood, as we know. But these are just like some examples that I know little girls are looking at and they're experiencing and might alter their view of themselves. Because princesses tend to have a very small waist, a tiny nose, but villains have crooked noses, kind of on the bigger side, sharper features, a bigger waistline. And it's kind of that depiction that having a bigger waistline and looking a little bit different is bad. When every single body type is actually beautiful. And I don't care what your nose looks like. I'm not gonna talk to you or not talk to you based on how your nose looks like. But those little subliminal messages that are sent to us through movies, through, animations, we start thinking, maybe if I wanted to be a princess, I need to look that way. And that starts since we're really, really young because we're watching these movies when we're toddlers. Other beauty standards, in the beauty industry and other aspects of Hollywood, especially with, beauty products that they tell you that you have to cover up, or they try to sell you skincare that targets a specific area of a woman's body. For example, cellulite creams, that they're like, oh, cellulite is bad, you should remove it. And they try to sell you a product that supposedly removes cellulite when it has been proven that around 90% of women have cellulite, And it's not like if I go to a pool, I'm gonna walk up there and be like, oh yeah, that girl has cellulite. I can barely see it. She should buy a cream for cellulite. Like, I've never in my life thought that. If I think about it, I don't think I've ever stopped in my tracks just because I see cellulite on someone, or I've never noticed cellulite. But those are the kind of things that the media kind of tells you it's important based on the products that they're selling you. Like wrinkles as well. Wrinkles have been very like demonized. Like, buy wrinkle creams, don't age, get plastic surgery. And now when you grow up, looking old is now seen like as a disadvantage or something to be ashamed of instead of a privilege, because it's a privilege to grow old. Many people don't have the chance to live a long, fulfilling life and get to have white streaks in their hair or get to have wrinkles. And that has been demonized now. So instead of being like, yes, I'm proud, I've lived a long life, I've had many experiences, we say, oh, don't ask me my age, oh, I need to dye my hair, I need to get surgery. If you want to, that's on you, like whatever makes you happy. But we've made to we have been made to feel like we have to in order to be accepted. Like youth is the only thing that is accepted in society, and that obviously makes insecurities arise. I also think families and friends can sometimes perpetuate these beauty standards when they're not meaning to. Like they might have your best interest at heart, but they're just not communicating it in a healthy way, or they're just trying to help you based on what they know, but what they know has been toxic. So that kind of spreads. It's like when that one aunt in a family function is like, are you gonna eat all that? She has been taught that you have to be skinny in order to be loved. That's what she believes. It has been internalized in her. So she genuinely thinks she's trying to help you by asking you and trying to reduce your waistline. But what she doesn't understand is that you don't need a small waistline to be okay. You don't need a small waistline to be worthy. So they're trying to help you, but in the long run they're not helping you, and you're just developing more insecurities due to that. It's like the same thing. I had a family member offer me no tell me that I need to buy cellulite creams and products because my cellulite was starting to show. I was like 14 at the time, something like that. Now, like I had never paid a second thought to the cellulite in my legs. Like I never had looked at it and been like, that must be wrong, ever. But when that happened, I was just like, oh my god, should I be paying attention to this? Like, should I remove it? Is that something that I need to do? Is that something that people are noticing and thinking? And that's how insecurities like slowly get drilled into your brain, because you've never thought of that before. But suddenly, when someone points it out, you're like, oh my god, is everyone noticing this about me? And I was never noticing it about me. And you start thinking that you have to change yourself in order for other people to accept you. And the thing is that since they have drilled these things into your mind, that's the only thing you know now. You only learn by example, by observing, movies, animations, your family, that these things are wrong and that you have to change it, and that is the only way things are. Like if you see your mom telling herself in the mirror that she doesn't look pretty, or that her belly is bloated and that it's not good, then what are you learning? You're learning the same thing. And the thing about it is that we have not been taught as women to think differently for a very long time. I'm so thankful that nowadays I feel like there's a lot more positivity content creators, like positive content creators, body positivity content creators, confidence content creators. Some that I love are Spencer Barbosa, of course, Tam Core, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but Leti Dekaru, I love her so much. Brie Lenhan, those are creators that really put their life and soul into creating content that makes other people feel inspired and let you know that it's totally normal to have things like cellulite, stretch marks, body hair. It's literally so normal and so demonized. So watching their content and them spreading the word that it is normal and beautiful to have these natural things in your body, I think it's changing the way people see it in the media. But we have to still talk about it because many people have not heard these messages or don't follow these people and are still stuck in the mindset that, oh, this is wrong, I have to change it, even though everybody has it. So that's why I wanted to create this podcast as well, because I was in the midst of that mindset, like, oh my god, I need to change my legs, and my personality is too much, I'm too loud, I need to tone that down. Oh, how about my body weight? I need to stop like eating normally and start reducing my calorie intake because I need to be thinner in order to be accepted. And once you open yourself to content like this podcast or any of the creators that I've mentioned before, your mindset really starts to change. So that's why I'm really happy you're here. And I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to record a podcast like this, where I get to share about the experience of leaving that mindset behind and focusing really on your potential and my energy, my vibes, how I make other people feel, because that's what's really important about a person, not how they look like. You're not friends with your best friend because of how she looks like. You're friends with her because she makes you laugh. Her energy is very infectious. She laughs and she makes you laugh just with her laugh. You know, stuff like that. Not really like, oh my gosh, she has a small waist. That's why she's my best friend. So yeah, we're here to change that mindset. Chapter 2, what confidence actually is. Many people think that confidence looks like cockiness, like being nonchalant or being like friends with absolutely everyone. You know how the popular girls are, or trying to be like everybody else. That is not what confidence is. Confidence does not require attention, and I think that's what people get wrong. Confident people are not actively seeking attention from other people. The more people look for attention, the less confident they are, because what they're actually doing, they're not just talking to everyone and trying to show off because they think it's so cool. No, or they think they are so cool. No. They're doing this because they want other people to think they're so cool, because they think if other people think they're so cool, then that means they are cool, right? Like they think if they put that out there and it reflects back to them, oh, then that means I'm cool. But really what they're doing is looking for validation. They don't feel good enough themselves, so they want everybody else to think they're good enough so that way they'll feel happy about themselves. But spoiler alert, this never happens. If you don't feel confident from within, validation is never going to make you feel more confident. It's actually going to make you want to look for more validation, which is how people pleasing starts. But we'll have a whole other episode about people pleasing, so I'm not going to get that much into it today. Another thing that a lot of people think about confidence is that either you're born with it or you're born without. Like you go through life and it's like, oh my god, that person is so confident. I wish I could be like them, but I guess I was just not born like that. That is such a lie, because confidence is a skill and you can practice it to get better at it over time. The Google definition of confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. Firm trust. That is what Google says confidence is. Now, if we take that and we apply it to a person, it means that a confident person can trust themselves. They are good on their own. They have people that they love. They're not looking for their validation, because even if they were alone, they would be good because they have their own back. They are so focused on their goals and their dreams and their vision and their potential that people that are speaking badly about them or telling them it's not even a possibility what they want to do, or it's never going to happen for them, that just sounds like noise. Like bzzz. They don't even pay attention to it because they trust themselves so much that they think, I have this potential. I've developed a plan with certain steps. There is no way I'm not going to get there if I follow through with my plans and my goals and I don't let, procrastination or self-sabotage get in the way. So they are so focused and they believe in themselves and their vision so much, they trust it so much, they're confident enough that no outside noise is ever going to stop them from chasing that dream. So basically what confidence is, it's belief in yourself. That, like, to the rawest version of confidence, that's what it is. And in the next chapter, we're going to learn how to start trusting yourself and how to start developing that confidence, so that one day when a hater tells you, oh, blah, 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 you can't do that, that is not possible for you. You'll be like, you know what? I'm confident enough to know I don't have to listen to you. And another myth that people have about confidence is that you're feeling like, oh my god, I feel myself, I feel so good, I feel so motivated all the time. Because that's not what confidence is. That is a big myth. Confidence and self-love go hand in hand, because in confidence you can trust yourself, you have your back, and self-love is being like kind to yourself and knowing that you're going to be there both your good days and your bad days, because you know that even if you have one bad day or even one bad week or one bad month, that doesn't define your goals, that doesn't define the future, that is not defining of the dreams you're trying to chase. It has nothing to do with that. Everyone can have a bad week, a bad day. The point is that you believe in your vision so much and you love yourself so much that you're like, okay, I'm gonna give myself this day to just unwind, like the rest of this bad day, turn it into a good day, and tomorrow we're gonna get back on track. Is that kindness to yourself through the ups and downs, is instead of criticizing yourself when you're feeling down, is choosing not to. It's not always like, oh, I'm feeling myself, but it's being like, we're not feeling great right now, but that's okay. And as soon as we feel better, we'll get back on track. That is confidence. Not feeling great all the time, but being there with yourself and holding your own hand through it, even if you don't feel great. Chapter 3. How do I develop confidence? So now we know how insecurities arise and what confidence actually is. But how do we bridge that gap between being insecure and being confident? What is the ground in the middle that we have to walk through in order to get to confidence? There are various things you can do in order to cross that bridge that gap. Um, I think the most important part is living your days intentionally, because a lot of the time we just go with whatever our brain is telling us or whatever people are telling us. We just go through that. But with confidence, I want you to pay attention to your thoughts and live very intentionally in the day. Pay attention to who's giving you advice and if you want to take that advice. And the ways to do this, we're going to get into that right now. First, since confidence partly means reliance on yourself, like being able to rely on yourself, you need to start following through on your promises. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 10 p.m. every night and never do that. And the way to do that is not only like attempting to go to bed at 10 p.m., but building a system that allows that. Like you need to have your clothes for the next day ready, your lunch ready if you go to school or work, maybe your outfit for tomorrow. You need to have already changed your pajamas, brush your teeth, like you need to have a system in order to be able to follow through on that promise. But you need to follow through on that promise, because if you had a friend that was like, oh yeah, let's hang out this Saturday, and then on Saturday you get to the place and she's like, oh, actually turns out I can't go, and she keeps doing that to you over and over in your hangouts, or like, I promise I will call you, and she never does, would you still be friends with them? I deeply hope you said no. This is part of the confidence building part. I deeply hope you said no, because you deserve a lot better than that. Anyone does. A friend is someone who follows through on promises, because that is someone who's reliable. A friend should be reliable. So no, you wouldn't be friends with that person. So why would you be that person with yourself? Because listen, you're stuck with yourself, okay? And you can make that a really, really, really great thing or a terrible thing that you have to deal with. I prefer to not do that and just focus on this really great thing. And if you start keeping the promises you make to yourself, then that confidence grows and then you become your own best friend. And I do recommend starting with like really tiny goals. Like today, I'm going to read for 10 minutes. Small goal, very achievable. And you keep doing that. I don't know if you want to do it every day, 3 times a week. You start following through on that one promise. One promise. And once you follow through with that, you can start adding another promise. Like today, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, as well as my reading. And as you start following through on the little promises, then your confidence builds up, because you start believing you can trust yourself. So then when you set yourself a bigger goal, like, I want to start a podcast, I want to start content creation, I want to begin writing a book, then you're going to be able to show up for yourself for that, because you don't make empty promises anymore. Once you say you're going to do something, you go ahead and do it. So that's why keeping promises for yourself is really, really important. The next thing I want you to do is to change your inner dialogue. Even if you keep, your promises to yourself and you start building that confidence, if you ever make a mistake, or, you had a rough day and you forget about your promises to yourself for one day, and then you start telling yourself, oh, I'm so stupid. How could I do that? I'm literally so useless. Like, oh my God, how slow can you be? Then you and yourself are not best friends anymore. Like if your friend that was always late or never showed up started showing up on time, but one time she didn't, and you started calling her stupid and slow and how silly and how dare you do that, do you think she would be best friends with you? No. She would not allow you to talk to her that way. So why are you talking to yourself that way? Okay? So if you had a rough day, something happens, you forgot an assignment, you forgot, an event you had to go to, I don't want you to be that rude to yourself. I know it can be a little frustrating, and you might be like, oh my God, like it was such a simple thing I had to do and I forgot, or whatever it was. I need you to take a second, live intentionally, and think, okay, we made a mistake, this happened, is it the end of the world? No. then we're gonna get on, we're gonna take the steps to fix it if it can be fixed. If not, we're gonna choose to learn from the mistake. Like, we know next time this is not gonna happen because now I'm paying attention to it. But we're not gonna criticize and be rude to ourselves about it. So I'm gonna take this as a lesson and I'm gonna move on with my day. Very intentionally. Scientists have proven that the words you say in your head can change your dopamine levels as well. Dopamine is one of your happy hormones. It helps with determination, it serves as a reward in your brain, and basically just pushes you to be the best version of yourself when you need it, right? So, for example, when you follow through on promises, you get dopamine because it's a reward. Like, oh my God, I did it. I kept the promise to myself. You get the dopamine. You're more inclined to do the same thing, follow through on the same promise next day, because then you'll get more dopamine, right? So if you speak to yourself poorly, your motivation and dopamine will drop. You will not want to do anything else in the day. Like, if you told yourself, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so this, blah, 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 would you seriously want to go on with the rest of your day, or would you want to lay down in your bed and cry? Because personally, I would like to go down and cry in my bed. But if you are kinder to yourself, you're like, okay, we're going to learn from this. We're not going to let it happen again. But, it was a mistake. You're human. You're allowed to make mistakes. We're learning as we go. Then it's like, okay, let me focus on the next thing. Your motivation rises, and you're like, I'm not going to make any more mistakes today. I'm going to focus on what I have to do. So that's proof of how, if you talk to yourself poorly, or if you talk to yourself poorly, it changes your perspective on life versus if you talk to yourself more kindly. And the science to back that up is that dopamine rises when you speak to yourself kindly and drops when you speak to yourself in unkind ways. So there's science behind it. I'm not speaking out of nowhere, okay? There's actually science to prove this, and you can look it up if you want to. Another thing about your inner dialogue is that when you label yourself as something, your brain takes it very literally. So when you tell yourself that you're stupid, your brain now sees you as stupid. Okay? It won't allow you to be anything else. If you tell yourself that you're insecure, your brain sees you as insecure. It's not going to allow you to be confident because that goes against its self belief. Your brain is always trying to prove itself right. Always, always, always. So if you tell yourself that you're insecure and now all of a sudden you're trying to be confident without telling yourself that you're confident, your brain's like, no, we can't do that confident behavior because we're insecure. So you need to change the way you identify yourself. You can tell yourself, I'm a confidence person in progress. If you don't want to outright say you're a confident person because you don't yet believe it, I'm on my way to become a confident person. And that way your brain is like, oh, so we're not insecure anymore. Okay, so let's try this behavior and this, and keeping promises to ourselves and speaking to ourselves kinder because we're not insecure anymore. And that way your brain will start focusing on the things that will make you a confident person rather than keeping you stuck as an insecure person. And a way to change your inner dialogue is first affirmations. I know it sounds really stupid. I didn't believe it either. Like, how does standing in the mirror or on your bed and repeating the same like words help at all? In your brain, you have neural pathways, right? So you have neurons that are connected in a very specific way. And the more you use, certain paths in your brain, the more strong they become. So if you constantly tell yourself that you're insecure, that you're not good at being confident, that you're stupid because you always make mistakes, that you are crazy, that's the side that's going to get reinforced. That's the neurons that are going to get super reinforced, and they're going to be stronger and overpower the positive ones. But if you use affirmations, if you start repeating those phrases and start slowly, telling yourself that I'm capable of anything I want to, nothing is out of my reach, I am super powerful, then those neural pathways are going to get stronger and the negatives are going to get weaker because these are getting stronger and these are not getting exercised. So what's going to happen? Then you're actually going to start believing everything you're saying in your affirmations. That is why we have to be super conscious and intentional about what we tell ourselves. Because whatever you tell yourself is what's going to stay up here. And yes, it can be hard to change it because you have to do it very intentionally. Again, you have to choose to change how you're thinking every time you're about to tell yourself, oh, I made a mistake, I'm so silly. Like, you have to stop yourself there and think, wait, am I? Or am I allowed to make mistakes? You have to be very intentional with it. And I keep repeating myself, but it's very important because otherwise you're never going to get out of that loop of thinking negative things. Lastly, I think to change your mindset and your way of thinking, that you need to do gratitude journaling. Most of the times we tend to focus on the things we didn't accomplish in the day, or the things we're missing, the opportunities that other people have that we lack. We focus so much on that we become oblivious to the things we have. Like, we have a roof over our head. We have so many things to be grateful for. I have a bed right here. I'm sitting on it. I have good clothes. Those are things to be grateful for. And I think people sometimes take it for granted. And the sooner you start seeing the little beautiful things in life, the sooner you're going to be able to realize that your life is not so bad. And that if you have all of this, you have potential to use all of your resources that you have available to you and become the best version of yourself. So I think that's a really, really important part when it comes to self-love and confidence, journaling for things that you're grateful for, as well that erases your mood, erases your vibration. It gives you more of those happy hormones. So yeah, it basically just uplifts you, makes you realize you have potential, and makes you just grateful for the little things in life that we're really lucky to have. The last thing I want you to do is to change your energy from being insecure to being confident. How do you do this? The thing that I want you to do is that as you're going through your life, your daily routine, be very intentional. And when situations arise, maybe an argument, or maybe you're trying on new clothes that you want to buy, ask yourself, how would the confident version of myself live through life? How would they react to this situation? How would they live through their day? Like, the confident version of myself try on a top that maybe is not so flattering on me and tell me, oh my god, you look so ugly, or we should be like, this is just not for me. If there's an argument, with the most confident version of myself shout back at them, be rude, or would she take a second and be calm and composed and answer to them very politely but not submissively? Just asking yourself what the confident version of yourself would do. What I don't recommend is trying to imitate other people around you that you think are confident, because first, we've learned that confidence can be faked, and as you become confident, you will realize this. But also because they're not you. You want to be the authentic version of yourself. You don't want to try and be someone else. That is not the point of being confident. The point is that you are confident, but you're also you. You have your own essence, your own personality, your own way of dealing with things. So if you try to imitate another person, you might think you're getting closer to being confident, but confident is trusting you, trusting yourself, and trusting, your taste, how you react to things. So really, you're not being more confident. You're just trying to be someone else. Okay? I want you to ask yourself what you would do. This bridges the gap between who you are now and the confident version of yourself. Because there's no way the insecure version of you will get to be confident if you don't think like the confident version of yourself. If you don't put yourself in her shoes, you're never going to become confident. Ever. Because you're thinking as an insecure version. You have to think like her in order to slowly become her. I hope that makes sense. And again, your neural pathways, the ones that you use, are reinforced all the time. They get stronger. So the more you think like an insecure person, the longer you'll stay there. The more you start thinking like a confident person, the closer you'll get to here. That was all for the episode today. I'm really so thankful you stuck to the end with me. I'm so proud of you for taking these steps. I hope the content here was useful for you and that you won't only listen to it once and leave it alone, but that you'll actually use it in your day-to-day life, because I want you to be the best, happiest, and most confident version of yourself. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Beautiful You podcast. I love you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be your internet big sister, and I hope to see you soon here next time. Have a great rest of your week.